Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about interviews. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, hi Frederick, I will have a team fit interview soon. Can you tell me about that kind of interview and give me some advice? P.S. I listened to all your videos and now I listen to them for the second time. Thank you so much for these types of talks. No worries. So when it comes to team fit, some call it team fit, and some call it office culture interviews or things like that. It's just a personal interview basically to figure out if they like you, if you are a good fit for their given team. So what I've always found to be the best approach here is to seem genuine. I like to say that in any professional environment, at least if you want to go with my strategy, adopt a mannerism that increases your positive attributes by at least 40%. It might seem a little bit overt, but it's better to be a little bit overt than being too subtle, because I mean this guy especially, like if you're too subtle, I'm not gonna pick up on it. I'm sorry, I'm just not that smart. And so making sure that you are sociable and trying to smile, be genuine, pay attention to people, act respectfully, things like that, without of course seeming to be a little bit too much, like you don't have to have overly formal mannerisms, or have refer to people as like, don't make the distance in social hierarchy between yourself and the person you're talking to too big, unless your culture really has an emphasis on if you're higher up in the hierarchy or lower down, and that you have certain mannerisms that you should follow, or social conventions. There are some societies where that is the case. Here in my region it's not so common. You usually talk to people fairly regardless of if it's like the bosses of bosses in the company. You talk to them in a very similar manner to how you would talk to any stranger, or like if you act respectfully basically. But here, as I said, it's more down to being genuine, because it's it's really, I argue, the thing that gets most people to build up a slight bit of trust with you. Well, and you can think about it yourself. If you meet a stranger or you talk to someone for the first time, usually the people who seem to genuinely be nice to talk to, or like who will have a relaxed conversation with you, because I mean, when you're meeting people for the first time, or you're talking to people who you don't really know all that well, the first instinct, hopefully for most sociable people, will be, hey, let's try to make this a nice experience. And that's the key thing here. There is no magic answer to these things. There's nothing I can tell you that is going to be like, oh yeah, this is always going to work, or this magical silver bullet answer is going to make you stand out, or my top 5 things to say. Like, there is no such thing, I argue here. The reason being because basically you don't know who you're going to talk to and what they're going to value and so forth. So you sort of have to stack your bets here, or stack the deck in your favor. And the best way to do that, as I said, is to try to seem genuine, because usually the people who hire you, and I've said this on a few occasions, they hire based on gut feeling. I I will go as far as to say that, and of course this is not a data-driven situation, but when people say that they're being data-driven, I argue that that is rare. There's a lot more people who are gut feeling driven in the world than they are data-driven, and this is one of the situations where this is definitely the case. This is all gut feeling, all of it. So if you have some interesting hobbies, or you can talk a little bit about yourself and you show interest in other people and so forth, these basic social things that you would expect from someone who is trying to be very accommodating to other people, that's the best. It's probably the best thing you can do, because the goal is here for you to leave the interview with everybody having a nice gut feeling about you. And that's the thing where social skills comes in, where you're gonna have to play it a little bit by ear here. Sometimes you can't win here, guys. I promise you. I have failed interviews on the social thing and so forth, where there is no like the person that you are talking to, you're not getting a vibe off them, like so forth and so forth. And I always tell you the same thing: don't take that too personally, especially here. If somebody doesn't like you or so forth, and you've done all the things that I'm talking about, it's very unlikely that it is because you didn't do something right. It's also on them. I've been in interviews, guys, where I've dealt with a person who maybe they had a bad day, maybe they're not very sociable themselves and so forth, and I couldn't reflect the sort of values that this individual has. We didn't connect, and so I don't get the job, even if I'm qualified, even if all these other things might have been right. All it takes, guys, in an interview is for someone to get a bad feeling about you, because remember, they are trying to, in a very limited time, figure out if they want to work with you or not, and you have the skills and so forth and so forth. If they are flawed in any of like these sorts of things, that's why it's like these beauty pageants or whatever, guys. There's no objective way to say that one person is like in these pageants, like that one person is definitely better than the other, and different panel of judges might come to a different conclusion. It's the same deal here. If you go to 3, 4, 5 different companies and they all go through the same interview, they will all have a different opinion about you, usually. And so try to look at it a little bit as one of those pageants or talent shows or something like that. You can only do as well as you can, and then you quote unquote have to just hope and pray that the people who are evaluating you respond to the person that you are. So what I want you to take away from this is that if you have a team fit interview or culture fit or similar sorts of things, I suggest you to try to be genuine. Increase your positive attributes by 40%. In other words, consciously make the commitment that during these talks that you make sure that you smile, you make eye contact, you try to do these basic things that a sociable person would do. Show an interest, ask a few questions about people, how their day has been, things like that, and respond. Try to share a little bit about yourself and your personality and so forth. Don't just lock down and so forth if you can avoid it. Of course you're going to be nervous and so forth, but try to show a little bit of genuine interest. It's very similar to how, as I said, if you had a coffee date with someone, you're going to talk to them about whatever, maybe a friend that you don't know all that well, but you just want to have a nice conversation with them. You ask about how things are going with them, how are things at work, these sorts of small talk things. Just do those things and then try to have a positive outlook. Share some things. If you have some hobbies or if you do some personal projects, stuff like that, talk a little bit about these sorts of things so you can have a nice conversation, because the goal here is not to impress people. This is the impressing part here is like it's difficult to know what's going to impress a person. So I argue, try to just leave people with a good gut feeling about you, because that gut feeling is usually the thing that determines whether or not they're going to like you or not. Have a great day.